How many of y'all have watched the new series, The House of David? Okay. So, if you have not, I encourage you to go watch it. I was really happy to see that it wasn't like distorted in some crazy way, okay? It was pretty accurate for the most part. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. But one of the things I want to talk about that I don't feel like is ever talked about anymore is fear of the Lord. Okay? The society we live in, the world we live in, even the churches we go to, they have more fear of man than they do of the Lord. And the one thing about the story of David and Saul that has always stood out to me and has always allowed me to have reverence and fear of the Lord is what happened with Saul. Okay? Saul was a great king. He did amazing things for his country for a very long time. But God got sick and tired of him constantly going against God's laws and the word that God would tell him. God would tell him, you don't need to be doing these things. He would send Samuel, the prophet, and the prophet would tell him, hey, you need to stop worshiping these gods. Hey, you need to stop doing all of these things, the concubines, all the things, right? And Saul would just continue. So at some point, God finally had enough, and a line was drawn in the sand, and God hardened his heart. I don't ever want to get to a place in my life that I no longer have any type of fear of the Lord, that God feels like he has to harden my heart because I refuse to hear him and listen anymore. I have been there one time in my life, and I will never forget it, and it is stuck in my mind like a bad nightmare that will never go away, but I hold on to it so that I know I will never lose the fear of the Lord again. And if you have ever been there so close to where you have almost seared the Holy Spirit, you know what I am talking about. It is a very uncomfortable, very unnerving, unhinging feeling you get in the pit of your stomach. And you know that if you make that step in that wrong position, it's over. God will harden your heart. Please have more fear of the Lord than fear of man. Do not be afraid to stand up for what his word says and all the things that he tells us to do and not do. Don't be afraid to share your testimony on what God has done in your life because others need to hear it. Do not fear man over God, for men are nothing compared to our God. Because if we continue on this road towards sin, God will harden your heart. And do you know the next thing that happened to Saul? He became mentally tormented and went crazy. We should fear the Lord. If you look back through the Bible, it is all throughout there. He would burn cities to the ground for sin that they were committing. Yes, God is full of grace and mercy, and he gives it to us to empower us to move away from our sin, to stand our ground, and no longer fall into the trap of the enemy and fall into temptation. But at some point, a line has to be drawn, and God has to say, enough is enough. It's me or not. And if it's not me, I will harden your heart, and you will sear the Holy Spirit. And if you do not think that is real, let me remind you, I know it is. I have seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I almost went through it. And it is a scary place to be, because at that point, there is no hope for your salvation. There is no hope of seeing heaven. You have now committed the one sin that is unforgivable, and that is searing the Holy Spirit. And grace and mercy is no longer found unto you. Yes, God is a gracious God and a merciful God, and he forgives things that most of us can't. But we should, because he does. And he puts up with it long enough to a point he just has to say enough. So if this is you, may it pierce your heart so that you can hear and not fall on deafened ears. I know that's a hard word to swallow, but we need to have more fear of the Lord than we do of man. I love y'all.